14th, 2021 at 5:30 PM. And if our clerk would please establish a quorum with a roll call.
Terry Riker,
Here.
Linda Wade,
Here.
Mary Ellen Randstack,
Here.
Hugh Zettel,
Here.
Jake Sumner,
Here.
and Derek Tennille is excused.
Yes, Derek is excused. All right, thank you. And I'd like to thank the Plan Commission too. You've been very flexible in our meeting schedule. I mean, we started off meeting Thursdays, and then we were meeting Tuesdays, and now we're meeting Wednesdays. So thank you all for having some flexibility there. And Amy and our chairman as well, and Laddie and Derek. So,
We just don't have much of a life.
well, when the request, for it's a variance or a zoning or whatever, we try to get it, address it as soon as we can. So anyway, thank you very much. Okay, if our clerk would please verify that it was properly noticed.
The agenda has been properly noticed.
All right, then I would look for a motion to adopt the agenda, please.
Mary Ellen moves.
Laird seconds.
All right. And all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, none, motion carried. Okay, public participation. I see Mr. Schroeder is here.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. And you can address the Plan Commission when we get down to that next item, okay?
That's all right.
All right, thank you. All right, so our previous meeting minutes of June 15th, 2021, I hope you've all had a chance to look at those. And if I could have a motion to accept and place on file.
So moved.
All right,
I'll second.
motion by Hugh, second by Laird. Any corrections, discussion, changes? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, none, motion carried. They will be placed on file. All right, and then our new business item, we have Mark Schroeder request for a variance of the Door County Comprehensive Zoning Ordinance regarding an accessory structure that he wishes to erect, which is closer than the 50-foot rear yard setback. And this is a proposal to construct a 12 by 20 storage shed. The property is located at 5520 Forest Road, parcel number 02202-28282644D. So, Mr. Schroeder, if you'd like to state your name for the record and your address, and
Mark Schroeder, 5520 Forest Road. And the only, well, number one, it's one of these prefab garages. I don't know if you guys got that information that's in front of you or not.
we did, Mark, we got the complete packet
Okay.
from land use,
So,
so.
when they say about a construction, I'm not constructing it, I'm just putting it on property. I have gravel there, and thank you. It isn't like I'm gonna be building something that's gonna be a permanent structure, so, and it's just the idea that where I wanna put it is, and if you saw that in there, I had the map from 1974 where it was actually subdivided into 3 lots. Where my house is, that's in the middle part of the lot. Of the middle lot, I should say. So the first lot from the west would not be changed any. That'd still be there. I do not plan on building on it. I don't plan on selling it. I don't plan on doing anything. It's just the idea that it's an open space, and I plan on probably putting in more trees. I'm getting up in years. I'm retired, thank God. And it's someplace for grandkids, they can go and play. So, that's basically it. I'm not trying to do anything out of the ordinary, so. So if there's any questions, I guess that'd be it.
I'll start. My question would be is, usually a storage shed, you'd want it to be easily accessible from your driveway, Mark, so I'm wondering, you're kind of putting it, like, there's a trailer on that corner of your house now, so.
Correct.
How
That
far is
trailer
that,
is,
how far is that trailer from the back rear lot line, do you know? That's probably more than 50 feet, right?
Yes, it's more
Okay.
than 50 feet. So the trailer, eventually, the trailer is gonna be gone, because what I'm using the trailer for now is a storage unit. And I would be putting that there. I bought the trailer 6, 7 years ago. I moved my daughter back from Virginia, and I purchased it out there, and that's where I just left it sit. So, once I get my storage/garage, then I'll be getting rid of the trailer. There's a slab foundation there already, which was something that I asked years ago. I forget, I'd have to find exactly when it was put in. But there's a concrete slab there, that's where the trailer is sitting on.
Okay, would you have a concrete slab under your building or not?
No, I would not.
Okay, and the reason that you want it 15 feet less from the 50 feet is because you just want it up further away from the house?
More aesthetics than anything else, like in my garage, I don't want to be looking at a garage, a building
And a
there, I've got my
garage.
windows. So I would keep it as, where that trailer you see on the picture, it would actually be a little bit closer to Forest Road. It would be about 5, 6 feet, so it would not be in line with the back of the house or the garage.
Okay, Mary Ellen?
I had a question. I was curious, the diagram, the hand, diagram that you made,
Second from the last.
yeah, well, all the pages have gotten all moved around. But anyway, I was curious as to why perhaps on the diagram, the building goes this way, why north-south,
Yes,
why you couldn't turn it and go east-west, which would give you extra footage.
I understand that, and if, back in the day, when that was actually agricultural, and where that area is, and you can see there's some grass or whatever, it's, actually, I have that tiled down towards the swamp, because that's a water hole. And the people, when they built or did the construction for it, they told me that'd be a great place for a pond, because the water was always retaining in there. And when Mark Stevenson was harvesting or farming that area, that was a dead spot, because the water always sat in there. So I actually tiled it from there, and also the person that did the construction of my garage, or my building, the house, and it was raining in September, October, and he thought that he would trench it back to the road so the water would run towards the road. Actually, the water from the road ran towards that back area. So when that area is there from just to the west of my spot where I want to put the building, that's actually a little bit of a trench-type waterway. I mean, if the water would sit, if I didn't have it tiled all the way to the south or to the east, it'd be a wet area.
So you couldn't put the building in the
Right,
east-west
it would be sitting
direction,
in
it
water
would be
at
sitting-
times,
Okay,
With our weather we have, you never know when it's gonna be a wet year or a dry year.
yeah.
And
I was curious, that just seemed logical to me, but obviously there were circumstances that,
Yes,
yeah,
I mean-
prevented that.
And I've actually got pictures of it from rainstorms and whatnot on my phone and cameras where the water is sitting out there. So I didn't want to put anything in that area.
Okay, well, you
North,
have that
south.
8x10 shed just to the east,
Yes,
the east. Does that avoid that tiled area then?
that's actually over the tiled area,
Over it?
yes.
Oh. Okay.
Because actually the tiled area is from where you can see that stonework. And yeah, where you see that, then you can see where I have it X'd in, where I want to put the trailer. And you'll see to the left of that, you can see some trees, whatever. And from that point, it goes back down past my mound, just on the border of my mound, which is to the east of the house.
Which map are you looking at? I'm just curious, I can't find the next on one of mine.
Oh, all right. Here.
Like from here?
Okay, got her. That's, well, yeah, okay.
Yeah, I just have a copy of it.
Sure, that's okay, I'll give it back to you. Yeah.
Yeah, because actually, if you go from, this is a copy of that one, but from here, it's tiled back to that point,
Okay,
and there's actually water, this is here. And right in here is actually a dump truck full of concrete. Because when they were doing my foundation, he got stuck.
It offloaded it and it stayed there.
Yeah, actually, when they
thank you.
did, they drove in from the east driveway, they drove to the west, and then they shot around the house, the backside of the house, and then they unloaded. But this guy thought that he was a little bit better than the rest, and then he just decided he'd do a wide swing, and he sat there.
Okay. Did you have anything else, Mary Ellen?
No, that's it, thank you.
Larry?
I don't have any comments.
Jay?
I guess I'm still, you couldn't just move it closer to the road, 15 feet?
I suppose I could move it closer to the road, but I have windows in my garage on the west, and if I move it any closer to the road, then it'd be blocking, I'd be looking out of my garage into my other garage. That's what I'm looking at, is just something, I'll be putting it pretty much in line with the northern window of my garage. So it would probably be less than the 15 feet variance, but I just want to have something where it can get the daylight, the sunlight. And I'm not going to put any power to the shed, the garage, the utility building.
How far away from the house is the shed?
Well, from the garage, it would be 14 feet. I'm guessing, I'm speculating, it's about 12. The
It
slab,
could go further though, without any problem, further away from the garage.
I could, but then I'd be right on the corner of my trees that are already planted, that are right there, so I'd have to take down, and this is an older aerial view, because that one pine tree that is right there actually is one that grew a little bit, and then it died, and grew a little bit and died, and now it's a very nice tall 15-foot tree. It's a pine tree. It is persistent in living. So otherwise, if I'd have to take it down, I would take it down, I guess. But, you know, in the back corner on the corner of my slab there, I have a pear tree. So the pear tree would be, and that's probably about 15 feet tall too. So then, that's why I'd get rid of I will be selling my trailer that's there.
So then you'll be left with a concrete slab
Yes,
after you sell the trailer.
yeah. But there again too, I have a utility trailer and I'd park that probably there. It isn't like I'm gonna be putting anything big.
So therefore, as you're gonna sell the trailer, but you have items stored in now, you anticipate moving those items that are stored now into the new building?
Correct.
Okay.
And by getting rid of the trailer that I have there, I'll use my utility trailer to park that on there because I have blacktop driveway alongside the west side of the garage. And that sits in there in the sun, so I can just put it back there and I can just leave the blacktop. because it was never really, it was excavated for a drive, or blacktop, you know, they dug it down, put some breaker and whatnot in it, but it does absorb the sun and the tires sit in it and so I'm just trying to keep that looking nice.
Okay. Anything else, Jay?
No, nothing I can think of right now.
You?
So that white rectangle, that's a concrete slab,
Correct.
and that's just what, a patio, or?
It was put there after I bought the trailer because it was sinking, the tires were sinking into the blacktop. It was just something to put there to keep it from doing damage to my blacktop.
Okay. And how big is the trailer that's parked there on the side?
It's 7 by 18.
Wow. Is it one of those enclosed one, or just?
Yes, it is. It's V-nosed. It's, if you're interested, it'll be for sale.
No.
It looks to be a very nice trailer.
It's had very
All
sheltered
enclosed.
life. It's been from Virginia to here and a couple of moves, and that's it, and it's been sitting there.
I did just call up the aerial, which is a very up-to-date photo. And, yeah, you mentioned the trees, and so I don't know if anybody else wants to take a look at that. You can just come on over and take a look at it if you like. That's the current
Yeah.
situation.
I just wondered about the trees on the north boundary line.
And those trees, I've been adding to it, and actually, I can tell you, there were 120 trees that I planted right after I purchased the property, and I did it on the, for a property line, and they all came from Tom Stevenson because the power lines went through his property.
Oh, sure.
So
You
it
just
was
went
a-
over there and dug them up?
Yeah, I dug them all up and I transplanted them, and the majority of them, I have to do a couple more because they retired, so.
Well, then he says, I think the tiling, because this goes over the tiling area, he said, 8 by 10 shed.
This has nothing to do with your request, but on your old house, Mark, what is,
I would like to
Like that.
dismantle that.
Yeah.
Which I thought would give him,
And
you know, back from the.
I had talked to the county person, she said that I had to, if I dismantled it and leaving the foundation, I would have to build on it within a year.
really?
That's what she told me, so I'm sitting there like, I figured, well, I'll get this part of it done first, and I'd like to tear it down and recycle as much as I
Yeah,
can.
I'll just give you a heads up that when you do demolish a building, you do need a demo permit, so just
Yes.
so you're aware of that.
Yes, I do, I actually got that, and then also too, of that, my little brown shed there, it's an 8 by 10, the
Yep.
it's just a plastic shed, it's one you get at Menards. And more than likely, that's gonna be gone because I'm not gonna use it anymore. That'll be passed on to somebody else.
Terry, did you have anything?
No, it's, you know, it looks, this is not a very big building we're talking about, and doesn't look like it's going to be offensive to anybody around there. So from that standpoint, you think it's pretty simple. However, if you go with the criteria for evaluating the petition, you know, is there physical limitations of the property to prevent the compliance with the standard ordinance? You know, you got 2.75 acres, you would think you could move a 20 by 12 building someplace there. And the other part that says, is there unnecessary hardships? You know, you yourself stated there's no hardships there, so you're sort of putting us in a tough position here
Well,
of deciding, you know, just because you want to put it there, we should go along with putting it there. And I'm sympathetic with it, I really am. But if we go with the criteria there, it doesn't, you don't check any of the boxes that say we should do it that way. So I guess it's a little conflict on which way to go here. I'd love to see you be able to do that, but, you know, like I said, it's, for the criteria that the commission is supposed to use here, it, you know, it doesn't fit well.
Okay, I can understand what you're saying, but in the same token, me as a resident of Sevastopol and what used to be and what people have said, and, you know, it isn't like I'm building some eyesore, I'm trying to keep it decent. And I'm looking at it from this thing here that said that was actually 3 lots at one time. And I just want to keep it in that area, and also for a driveway, I didn't want to go and add anything more. I want to keep it kind of nice and neat and close to the house. So, I don't know what, and I understand I'm probably putting you in a bind or in a questionable state, but in the same token, I'm Joe Blow. I'm nobody. You know, until I actually went and looked at buying this, and I had heard that, hey, you got the property, you know, you can go and do it, you know, you gotta stay away from the lot line. And the guy I ordered the building from, he says, well, you gotta take care of all the permits. So I could have probably just went and said, well, I'll just go and get it, and I did the gravel work, and I just put it there, and that's it, and would be the wiser. But I was trying to go through the legal system of it, and I learned a lot already, because this is something that I didn't realize you needed a special permit, and within 50 feet of a property line where Steve's Lobenstein, his property is pretty much landlocked, where he is not gonna be able to do any development on that property. And I had talked to him, and he says, well, I don't have a problem with it. So, and that was it. And then Todd Michaels stopped the other day, and he asked me about it, because he was kind of curious, because he thought it was down by my older house. And I showed it to him. He said, well, what's the problem? And I said, you know, there's what the township, or what the county, or whoever you want to give credit to, we, or you need to get it out to other people so that I don't go out and buy a frickin' shed and all of a sudden say that, oh, you can't put it there because you have to have it 50 feet away from my property line. It isn't like I'm putting it on my property line. I'm giving the distance away. I'm trying to stay away from it. I'm trying to keep my footprint, so to speak. My house, my driveway, I didn't want to have a driveway going off to this way or that way. I didn't want to have anything else. I just wanted to have something simple. And I didn't realize it was that much of a ordeal or a big thing to have a shed put on something that's on your property. And I believe you have something on your, I don't know where it is, but in Sevastopol, you can put a 8x10 shed on without any permits or anything else. The way I read it. And I'm sure I got it here someplace.
Yeah, I think it's 150, up to 150 square foot with no foundation does not require a permit because it's not really considered a permanent structure.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you're correct.
And with that stated, not a permanent permanent structure, this is not a permanent structure. Because the guy's gonna bring it in, offload it off his truck, and it's gonna sit there. It doesn't have foundation, it isn't built into the ground, it isn't, you know, down the road, hey, I wanna sell it. I sell my property, I retire, or I pass away. They wanna get rid of it, it's gone. You can pick it up and move it away. So, I don't know, I don't mean to put you guys on the spot, but also, I'm kind of put on the spot too, because I did not realize it's this big of a situation or big of an ordeal to have a building, and I'm, like I say, I'm not putting it next to the road. I'm not really interfering with anybody else's property. I talked to the neighbor, and I'm not right on the property line. So, it isn't like I have housing all around me, and I think back in the day, and the way this is from, and I moved up here in 75, and this was actually dated, I think it was in 74. And that's where they did all the buildings, all these small lots, like they did over on Dunn Road. So they subdivided everything into these small areas, and that's where that permit came from. Or that's where they came up with that drawing. Sketch, or whatever you want to call it. So,
Well, I'm sympathetic with you, I really am, I understand what you're saying, and, you know, I don't know what the history of the commission is on things like this, but I want you to understand that, you know, whatever we come up with here, it's, you know, we've got guidelines we're supposed to follow, and, you know, you're not checking those boxes very good for us here, so it's a,
and there again too, did I go to school to find out what boxes to check? You know, I looked at it, and I said, here I'm filling this thing out, well, what am I supposed to answer? You know, what are the pros and cons? What are the pluses and minuses? What should I answer this? Is it a hardship? Well, I guess it would be a hardship because I'd have to go and invest in putting in another driveway or adding on to my existing driveway. And I thought by keeping everything in with your map in front of you, it's keeping it nice and neat, close by, instead of having something going off here, going off there. And that's what I was looking at.
So in this, sorry, Terry, so in this picture, the original one here, there's a trailer next to, is that where you have that 7 by 18 or whatever?
Oh, that slab,
enclosed
that,
trailer?
yeah,
Okay, and that's what, like a 6 foot tall, right, if it's enclosed, kind of like the landscapers use?
basically, yes.
Yeah, okay. So in a sense, from a rectangular structure perspective, it really isn't that much different than the shed you want to put up there.
Correct,
At the end-
actually,
at-
it's,
At the end of the day. And so that's where I'm befuddled about, you know, if you've got that structure there and sometimes parked along the garage, that's obstructing those west windows with that trailer just as much as a shed would be. You know, and from an aesthetics perspective, we can't, you know, aesthetics don't count as a criteria. So if you can park that large moving trailer next door obstructing those west windows, is a shed gonna be any more of a problem?
so then you're telling me I could get rid of my trailer and then put my garage where
Well,
the,
I'm just saying, you have the ability, right, you can, it looks, at least from the drawing, Mr. Schrader, that there's a lot of room that you can move it forward, and on the westward side here, that's all garage, right?
on the west side, yes.
On that just has the windows, so there's, you know, at least from the handwritten drawing and the overhead, it looks like there's a lot of room where you can move it up, you know, and even park it on some of the existing blacktop slab if you want, or part of it, but it, you know, there's, you know, yes, you're looking out a window and you're looking at a garage, but that may be no different than looking out the window and you've got your trailer there. You know, aesthetically, it's basically the same.
Yes,
And dealing with the county zoning folks, just personally, they really don't care about aesthetics, and I feel your pain, because I've gone through that personally with stuff that, you know, I want to do in my own yard, with construction. So, you know, Terry's point is spot on. Unfortunately, that's, you know, they're looking at it even more bright line, and with not as much empathy as we have,
Okay.
unfortunately. So that's where I'm just, you know, curious as, you know, why that couldn't come up further. You know, even if it was only 43 feet and not 50, that's still, you know, going through, you know, reasonable lengths to try to get as close to the 50 feet, you know, as possible without, sacrificing anything else. And the thing is, there's just slab there now, or, excuse me, driveway there now. If there was other trailers or other things that were always going to be parked there along the side of the house going forward, then you might have, an argument. Or even if it's parked along the side of the house, that you could still, drive through and park something on the slab, you still have the ability to do that.
And actually, where you see the slab on there, and where I have the box drawn in for the garage,
Yes.
you could actually move that farther up to the edge of, or a little bit more to the south of the slab. It's not going to the back of the slab.
Here,
So-
if, I just did a rough measurement on the aerial that I have on here. So from the back lot to the corner of the slab, I am showing 33 feet. So perhaps this drawing is a little off. So from the back lot line to the slab, 33 feet. From the back lot line to the corner of your garage in a straight line is about 55 feet. Does that sound about right?
Yes, that sounds about right.
So if you went with the 50-foot setback, the back corner of their garage would be at 50 feet and would cover your windows in the garage. I can see that.
There would be 7 feet of, there'd be 15 feet of overlap, right, because of the
Right.
20-foot structure.
Yes.
If that helps at all for a visual.
Yeah. So all I'm saying is that I don't want to put it beyond that point. I just don't want to have a barrier. I don't want to have it next to the garage, next to the house or the garage house. And I'm calling my shed a garage because it's basically just a garage. And I want to hold it up there. I think it was like roughly 15 feet off the lot line was the difference. So it was roughly 35 feet. That would be the back end of the garage.
If in the end, the county does not, we can do what we want to do here, but if the county does not grant you the variance, we put the shed in the envelope that you need to put it in anyway? In other words, move it within the 50 feet setback?
I would have to do it, but then also like my neighbor says, well, we can come down and move it every 6 months for you with the forklift. We're distracted. So, I'm just not being sarcastic about it, but he just said, Todd, Michael says, well, I'll come down and I'll move it. That's basically, it isn't a permanent structure. I guess that's where I'm kind of on my mindset that, it's not a permanent structure, and where it states in here that it's a permanent structure.
How's that set, Linda?
I think the challenge is once something is providing a variance down the road, someone can make that a permanent structure. Right? Once you create a variance, then someone can pick that up with a forklift, and then someone can then put a permanent structure there. Right, so that's some of the challenges of variance. It's not a, it's not a
Just unique to this situation.
It's not a unique to this situation or per instance. I think they have a language in the criteria that says it's kind of a carry forward.
Yeah, it goes with the land,
Goes with the
not the
land, so
owner.
it stays. So once someone gets a variance through, and that's why they treat it as such an exception at the county level, since this is county zoning, is it's there forever. And
We'd be
it's-
setting a precedent too, that, this could be done for,
Variances run with the land,
Run with the land,
not
that's the term,
the
yeah.
applicant. So an approved variance is permanently attached to the parcel, okay? I did call the property owner Mr. Lobenstein, and he has no objection to it being 35 feet from the lot line.
Because I believe, if I'm correct, when Steve built Grandma Tommy's, that his area in back there, that was all pretty much locked in where nothing could ever be developed in there.
That is zoned commercial, commercial center though, so they have different setbacks for commercial,
Okay.
so.
Like I say, I'm in a learning experience right now. I'm learning.
With the dimensions so close, like I said, I measured from the back lot line to the corner of the slab is 35 feet. Wouldn't you just put your building right on that slab then? Wouldn't that be the easiest? I mean, you'd still
I
need a
was-
variance, obviously, but the slab is there already and,
I could put it on the slab. I mean, I could put it on the slab if that's what it takes to please everybody. The only thing is that when they poured the slab, it was level and then it tapers
yeah.
down for the rain.
It kind of looks like it's off.
So that's it. And I don't want to, you know, I think the slab is 25 feet. So I'm just saying, I just want to put it off to the side of it. I've got gravel there. I got utility trailer, 8 by 5 for my yard garden things. And I just thought, well, I can put this over here and I can just keep it there and it'll be out of the way and it would, nothing would be per se in the way. It'll look good from the road and plus I got the trees there, so it's not like it's, so.
I guess one of the things that surprised me when I first started reading this was that it was a 50-foot setback on the back lot. Is that pretty much on,
Well, that surprised me when I got told that 50 feet from your back lot. Well, it isn't the city, it isn't, you know, I mean,
Yeah, it's countryside, so depending on how the property is zoned, they have different setbacks. So
yeah.
countryside is country, you know, that's probably why the setback is
Well, now, is
50
that
feet
because
as
this
opposed
is-
to 25 feet or 8 feet.
this is zoning what is normally a 10-acre lot or something? And wasn't there something in there on that?
Right, when the
It's kinda
zoning.
grandfathered
Right,
in,
mhm, got grandfathered in, right.
Um,
Yes, I did see that somewhere.
What was the zoning, Linda, before it was countryside? Was it agriculture?
I'm gonna guess it was general egg.
I believe so because it used to be a cherry orchard or
Yeah.
apple orchard.
Oh, and I see your abstract there.
You want it?
No, never get rid of it. If you decide you don't want it anymore, turn it into the Historical Society. Because it shows the patent from the US and everything, correct?
You know where I got this from?
Yep,
The bank.
okay.
Yeah, they sent it to me and oh, do I really need this?
If you don't want it, yeah, we'll add it to our files because abstracts are hard to come by.
So, actually,
They're
that's,
historical.
I just kept it because I thought, well, maybe someday it'll come in handy and
Okay. And so I digress, sorry.
Okay.
I just brought another filing cabinet, so we have plenty of room now.
Thank you so much.
All right. Any other questions, discussion, what? Yeah, this is a difficult situation. I can see for aesthetics and personal preference that, you know, you would want your storage building back away from your house and not up front by the road or blocking your view. I can certainly understand that.
Well, I keep looking, really thinking about that situation where the land is so wet from your 8x10 shed to the east.
no, it's actually to the west where it is wet. To the west would be where the wet zone is.
I thought you pointed east from basically the shed east.
No, well, it's, you know, to your left of where the shed, proposed shed would be, That's-
The 8x10, one that's there now, I'm speaking about.
Yes.
Okay. If I look east, west, what do you
If
tell
you
me?
look to your right at the map, you'd be looking east.
Correct.
And that is on top of a hill. That's on a knoll.
Okay.
And then a little bit farther down, you could see a clump of trees there. And to the south of that, you can see its height, or highlighted there, that's my mound system. So the house itself is built on top of a knoll, or on top of a hill.
And you can't turn that 20 dimension 90 degrees and go east and west with it, huh?
My
Of
shed,
your shed.
The new shed.
Like, I think Mary Ellen mentioned this earlier, just turning it 90 degrees, and then you'd only be 7 feet, move it 7 feet to the south, and you'll be within the 50-foot setback.
but then if I'd have to turn it to the west, and that's the wet area.
So that's out of the question then.
It is. I mean.
Can't fill that with a little gravel or anything, or? I don't know how much.
No,
it knocks
I
out.
understand what you're saying, and I rely to that, but to the west of that, that's just, it slopes right down.
Goes right down.
Yeah, and actually, I planted some grape trees in there, and the water, it's saturated, I don't have to water anything in that area. And then a little bit more to the south, there's another area, and that's dried up again.
That just seemed like an easy solution.
No, I
Yeah.
appreciate it, and I understand that. And like I say, when the guy did the construction for the house, and he did actually try trenching it from that spot in the north to the road, and the water from the road was running towards that pit. So it runs right through there. And and if you see to the left over there, there's a dirt pile. It's just a little white spot, but I go and I start filling it every now and then and try to increase my elevations a little. So, and like I say, it's where I've got it X'd out, and if you got the same thing I've got, I believe so, it would be not to the back end of where that slab is, it'd be more to the south, towards the road. And I just don't want thinking about it and like for the wind and the snow blowing around there. So this year will be a new year too, because now I put solar panels on my garage to see what that makes a difference with the wind blowing.
I was wondering what those were.
Yes. So now, off track a little bit. The guy that came and sold me the solar panels because he put them on the garage, but he was proposing to put them on the backside of the house. Would I have needed a permit to put the solar panels up?
I don't know.
I think so.
Electrical work,
Electrical only, not a
Yeah.
building.
not a building, right?
So you would need a permit, not a house.
If you alter electrical or plumbing, there is a permit. I think it's like $45, or maybe it's 50 by now,
Okay,
just for future reference.
yeah. Well, I'd rather have them on the garage anyways. I didn't want to use up my mowing space. I like mowing my grass.
Why?
Well, if you see my property line there, I think it looks kind of nice.
It does, it looks very nice from the air.
I'm a
too.
farm boy by heart. I was raised in Minnesota. So,
I moved from Iowa where I had about 4 acres I used to mow, and that was one of the appeals. I didn't have to cut grass up here. For me.
yeah,
I've got 5.5
Well,
acres
okay.
and I've reduced 2 of it with meadow now.
Yeah, we did that. We put in prairie grass.
Yep.
Okay. Any other questions for Mark, or?
You know, like I say, it isn't gonna be on the back side of the whited area where the slab is. And if you tell me I need to put it on my slab, I will put it on my slab. But I do have gravel, and the reason I had that done
You say the X on this map, I know.
was
Wow.
because when I was trying to back in alongside my garage, I was always driving on my lawn, trying to make into my apron.
So you-
So I
Mark,
just,
what did you say you X'd? You X'd something?
Yeah, and I-
I see you X'd the well.
On your hand drawing, but,
yeah, that's pretty sketchy.
yeah, I didn't, this is my pencil mark,
Okay.
but I thought you said on here you put an X.
Oh, all right,
I did not, this is my pencil line, I
okay,
was just,
but actually, where I'm looking at is,
Is that the
it'd
proposed area?
actually be right about there,
Oh, the little crosshatch here?
yeah.
Is that it, the little crosshatch? That's where you propose to put the building?
Right, it's,
Yep.
it's not
Yep.
gonna be, I'm not saying here, because I got a nice pair of
this
trees.
is the slab.
Correct.
Right, here- and it shows it nice and clear on
Yeah.
here too.
So the hatch mark is what you're calling an X. I mean, that's where you want.
Well, approximately, I think the lady that is out there doing the survey, but anyways, I wanna move it farther that way, because actually, if I do my 50-foot offset, it would be coming out to about here. It's in the middle of like the peak of my garage. So I got one window that's kind of in here. So I just wanna get it so that I can have the daylight.
Go out the garage and go right in it.
Well, no, I've got a door here, but I mean, just so that the
See out the
sunset,
window, right.
the sunset, you know, it isn't like I'm gonna
What's the history of?
block anything.
Commission on something?
And this land is what you said, from the back lot line to here was 35 feet.
Yes.
All right,
You
that's,
could,
I just couldn't find when you said an
Hypothetical,
X. I saw no
follow
X on
criteria.
here.
Yeah, and here's that, my little shed.
Yeah, that 8 by
and
10.
There's my mound.
Yeah, got all that, but it was just, I didn't know if that was your daughter's trailer or what it was.
No, actually, my
Indicating.
trailer is on the white.
Okay, all right. Just wanted to see what I was looking at. I kept looking for an X, and I'm going, I don't see any X.
Well, it's,
That's okay, I
What's this
got it.
tan thing on the photo? What's that tan thing?
The county's gonna do what they want.
Trailer.
that's gotta be my other trailer. I got a-
Utility trailer?
Yes, utility
Oh,
trailer.
that's a much
So I'm
better
gonna get rid of this. And then-
This is where you propose.
Right, and actually, what I'm talking about, the 50-foot
Well, I guess that'll apply.
offset would be right here. It's in the middle of my peak of my garage.
The county really
My
listened to
window
it.
is right,
So technically, your house is not
Here, so those
50
building would
feet
be
back.
like right here.
Yes, it is.
back here, I think.
Yeah,
Well, if you're saying this is 50 feet, here,
Well, I mean-
this is the corner of the garage, right?
right, well, I mean, I was wrong when I said it. My 50-foot would be from here to there, would be from here.
Okay, 50 feet plus the 20 feet of the building, you're saying?
Right, correct.
Okay.
So I just wanna move it back enough so that I can look, I have 2 vertical windows in my garage. And I just don't wanna be looking at, there again too. I'm gonna lose sunlight. There you go, I guess that's my issue.
We said it'd be 14 feet or more away from the garage, though.
Right, so I'm just looking
That would
at,
let sunlight in.
yeah. Not now. Well, yes, I guess it would, but this X mark here is, actually should have been, because I got my slab, and it would be somewhere's in there, like 5 feet off of this, somewhere's in there. So, I don't know, I guess I should have taken better pictures and
Yeah.
went to school on how to do this.
Thank you, Mark.
Yes.
I question why they need a 50-foot setback. There has to be some thought behind it.
That's,
And the 50-foot setback now, that's from the county?
yep,
Yes.
yes.
yeah.
Yes.
So, and I'd have to talk to the county to find out, because there again too, I've had the property, since 2000, when we built the house, or actually from 98. And I lived in the other property in 86. So I know the basic area of everything. And kind of one of the strange points of it is, we're on top of a hill, we have 47 feet of soil before we hit bedrock. At that point.
Nice.
But it's a glacier deposit, and it's just like rock. So,
Why did you choose to put the house so far back from the road?
actually, we didn't think it was that far back from the road. Because you go with it, and there again too, we angled it, the house itself, angled it so it'd be down towards the woods to the northeast, so we could watch our wildlife, the deer and the turkeys, and the squared off piece is the garage. And it's a Wisconsin home, prefab. I always thought that if you would start adding everything up to it, so you have everything parallel to the road, and my reference was always a horse barn, because it just looked like one solid building. And we wanted to make something that looks better than a prefab.
Yeah, if you drive by it, the house is not that far off the road.
So. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you say yes, and you can always throw the old variance in, subject to this parcel. I don't know if that works or not, but,
I was just looking at the setbacks for countryside. So side setbacks are, on the principal structures, 40 feet. For an accessory building, it's 20. However, rear setbacks are 50 for both principal and accessory, and 25 feet from the front. Agriculture is 50 feet all the way around, and of course, then when you get into the smaller residentials, they're like 20, 40, even 5, so.
So if it was,
That's
if we looked at the historical ag zoning, it would have been worse from a setback perspective then.
Right, agriculture, general ag would have been 50, 50, 50, 50 all the way around, except the front at 25.
and going back to this old abstract, it actually showed this was a allotted parcel. So then if it'd be a parcel is a lot, then could I go on, you said the 20, 40?
Well, it appears that it's all one parcel now. It's all 44D. I mean, according to the tax records, you only get one tax bill, right, where you live now, and then a separate tax bill for the older house. So those 3 lots have all been, somewhere along the line, combined into one, even though your certified survey map is showing 3.
Okay, well, I was never told that. Because that's why when we built the house, I had it as 3 lots, and that's where the house ended up being
In
where
the
it
middle,
is.
in the
Because
middle.
that's, the lot to the west
Yeah.
was still a full lot.
Well, that was also in 1972, this breakage into 3. And the survey from the year 2000 shows it as a single
One
lot.
parcel. Yeah.
Correct. I understand that.
Right.
But I did not receive this until after 2000, and I did not realize, I was just told that that was actually parceled into 3 separate lots. And when they did the zoning, or they did for us building on the lot, to me, if you have A, B, C, and D, you got the 4 points, you got the 4 points of the whole parcel. If it's 3 lots, it's 3 lots, but you still got your 4 corners.
Yeah. and it's 600 feet wide, I guess you could say wide.
And 2.75 acres, yeah.
Right, 2.75 acres.
And that's a tract, not a lot, and I don't know what the differential there would be. But anyway, it's all one now.
Okay, so
2.6.
now what do we do?
Well,
I'm sympathetic, I really, really am, to your wishes. But as Mr. Riker says, we have certain criteria we have to look at.
And as it says, the variance isn't warranted if the physical character of the property allows a landowner to develop or build in compliance with the zoning ordinance, which repositioning the new garage is possible to do.
You did receive this general criteria, Mark? Where, you know, how we base our, you can have mine if you want. So that's the criteria for evaluating variances. You know, is there a hardship? Hard to say.
I think
Is it a personal preference? You know, probably, so. That's probably in your packet from zoning,
possibly,
yeah. But,
to look once.
you know, those are things that we have to look at.
I understand that, like I say, I did not realize that there is such an ordeal just to put up, or just to get a building, a temporary structure to put it on property. And I'll tell you right off, it's gonna be on treated lumber, so it can easily be moved. So it isn't gonna settle into the gravel. That's what I wanted to do, is I just didn't want it to fall down into it. It's a treated building. Yeah, there again too, if a person ever has to do this again, not me, but anybody else that's watching, maybe they should have a class just to understand what the hell's going on around here with county zonings.
Well, thank you for being proactive, because I believe our chairman just mentioned at our last board meeting, there are instances where people just go ahead and build, not realizing that, perhaps they're not within the setbacks, and they didn't get a building permit, and they didn't get a zoning permit. So then it's after the fact, and there's penalties involved. So at least you're, like I said, being proactive rather than after the fact and trying to cure something
Yeah.
then.
Because I just, like I say, I feel that it's not the end of the world. It isn't, it's all right. Steve isn't gonna be able to do anything with his property behind him. It isn't like I'm gonna be putting it right on the frickin' property line.
Yeah, and he-
I'm gonna be,
Yeah, he has no,
Yeah.
I talked to him, he has no objection.
for everything that I'm asking for, it is 15 feet. I don't even know if it's gonna be 15 feet.
Linda is, you know, I think everybody is sympathetic of the situation. The building is certainly not an objectionable building. His neighbors are not objecting it. But, you know, we have to, the information we give to the county, it's asking for why we decided what we decided. What, you know, what possibly could we put in there that, you know, if we gave him the variance, could we put in there that would make that
Acceptable.
look somewhat reasonable?
Yeah.
Well, I think the thing here is that, well, what we come up against is it's not like a special dispensation type of thing. It's whatever happened, it goes with the property. It will be there forever for the people that follow you and so on and so forth. That's the struggle that we face, is that it isn't, while your plan is just terrific, it's gonna be there for the next owner and the next owner to have that variance. And that's part of the struggle of this, that we have to be careful with,
Okay.
and precise.
But it's not a permanent fixture though, is it? Even though it can be moved?
But the variance is permanent.
Variance is
That's what they're trying, what we're trying to.
I understand, the
convey
variance
here. The
is a
variance
permanent.
is permanent, yeah.
Right.
Where something else could be built, at 35 feet. I didn't see this before, but if you look on the bottom of that criteria page, where it says one final consideration, will granting the variance serve an overriding public interest? If yes, granting may be possibly justifiable. Personally, I like to see storage buildings as far from the road as possible, so I don't know if that would be considered a public interest or not, or a personal preference, but
Well, I
I
wondered-
like it when people put their storage buildings away from the road, so.
Oddly enough, I had a note here too, that I'd rather see something inside a building rather than stored outside.
Right.
That was one of my notes, but I didn't know if it would,
Yeah, I would probably go along with something like that, Linda, that no, there is no physical limitation of the property. It doesn't really have an impact on the public interest. There isn't really an unnecessary hardship. I mean, at the end of the day, aesthetics is not a hardship.
No.
Yeah.
You know,
correct.
physical character is not a hardship. I think the only thing that we would be sympathetic to is that from a public interest perspective, it is far away from the road and is less of an eyesore. And
right.
that's,
To the general passing public,
Right.
correct?
Well, I guess,
That might
if somebody, wants to make a motion, I don't know, that there are, we don't see the physical limitations, we don't see the not unnecessary hardship, and then to Hugh's point that, and Mary Ellen's, that storage of materials inside a building is certainly preferable to storage outside of or not in a building,
After all,
and,
we have things governing that.
right, and the further from a public road, the less of an eyesore, for sure. I don't know.
I make a motion that we allow the variance for 35 feet or more, if possible, under the public interest of keeping the storage building, off the main roadway and out of public eyesight.
Okay, you said 35 or less.
35 or
Not-
more. So in
okay.
other words,
Thirty-
when final measurements are done, so I can go 38, great, you're closer to the
Right.
50 feet,
Okay,
okay? About 35 feet or more,
or more from the rear lot line.
right,
Well,
when you do your final measurements, because, unfortunately, we don't have very accurate measurements here.
Why would you say more?
Well, if it can be 37, I'm just saying, we're making a recommendation that the county still owns the zoning.
Right,
And they
right,
may,
right.
they may
We
say.
don't want it to be 33 feet.
Right, we're not gonna
The
s-
least it's
yeah,
going to
at
be is
least-
35
At
feet
least
from the
35.
lot.
We're okay with a 35. If it's 36, great. If it's 37, great.
Yep.
But.
So we could word it 35 feet.
Or
Minimum of 30.
Minimum
more
of 35.
from the rear
From the rear
lot
lot
line.
line.
Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
and then what we can do in the reasons for our decision, say, hey, it's further setback from the road, right? It allows for storage,
Inside
we
storage.
always, it's always more positive when you store things in a
Store stuff
building than
inside.
having them, laying around outside. And the other thing is, there's no objection to the neighbors.
No objection from neighbors, right? And the building is not, offensive.
It's also not permanent. If you can pick it up with a forklift and move it, you know, you're not building a foundation there.
Right.
Granted, it
Okay,
doesn't change the
all right,
variance.
not permanent.
Somebody
Yeah.
else could.
And may I say something, that's why I wanted to put it on gravel instead of on the slab, because I did not want it so it could be anchored to the building, I want it so it's separate.
Okay,
That would in effect make the setback of the entire property 35 feet though, right?
right, it's not just one,
Not just
just
this one
not in
little
that
spot.
location.
It'd be the entire property.
Right.
Nobody seconded your motion.
I know that.
Discussion happens after the
Oh,
second.
well,
Second.
okay. Any further
What's
discussion?
the difference
sheriffs
between
have
discussion
spoken.
before and discussion after?
Any other discussion? All right. All those in favor, we have a motion by Hugh, a second by Terry, that to allow the variance to 35 feet or more from the rear lot line. And we're making that consideration under public interest. And then we'll go through these points a little later. All right, all those in favor of the motion to grant the variance signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye. I'm in total favor of you getting this done, but I just can't see giving a variance for it. And I don't see any reason why it couldn't be 35 feet really, but, I don't, we just don't hit it, you know, it just doesn't meet the criteria.
Yeah, and
I don't see why it's 50-foot variance, setback variance. To me, that's kind of silly,
right, and that's,
That's what it
that's
is.
my point.
but that's what it is.
And that's going by the county's,
And we follow county zoning.
Well, that's-
Determine it, we follow.
And, Mark, this is, so the plan commission makes a recommendation to the town board. The town board, I don't know if this will be on the agenda for Monday.
Yes.
So, you're invited back on Monday when the town board addresses this.
okay,
So plan commission recommends to town board recommends to the Board of Adjustment. Monday at 7 PM. Right here.
okay.
Okay, do you want that noted for the record, Jay?
if you want to.
I usually do if I
Sure.
vote nay, so.
May I ask a question, though?
Sure.
You know, for whatever reason, and I can understand it, I think Amy was the one that kind of told me, or I asked some questions, because I was completely flabbergasted that I needed a 50-foot setback.
Understandable.
And I talked to a few people from different townships, and I says, well, what's the deal? You know, why would you? And the one says, well, if that's what you have, and you're 35 feet away from your property line, we would just grant it and that'd be it, but it's not affiliated with the county board system.
Yeah.
And-
I'd be perfectly happy if the county says, yeah, go ahead and do it. That'd be great as far as I'm concerned. I just don't see how we can justify giving you approving your variance.
Okay. But
Fair
where,
enough. Yep.
you know, or I shouldn't say you know, but why is it that this happened? You know, from what I understand, it was back in the day of Leo Zipper and with all the properties, if you got it on the lake side, the bay side, the wetlands and everything else, and it would have cost the town of Sevastopol X amount of dollars to do this, and it was just as easy to pass it off to the county board. But should not the county board also take into consideration the people that live here? You know, it isn't like I'm, you know, not that I need special treatment.
Yeah.
I'm in agreement with you. I don't think it should be a 50-foot setback, but that's what it is.
Yeah, and I don't know why would you, for what reason, why would you have a 50-foot setback on any property? You know, you look in town, my God, there's houses that are, these are small lots, they're even an acre lot. And you have sheds that are 5 feet or 2 feet away from the property line. So now we're out in the country, now you want 50 feet?
Well, I think that goes to countryside, general ag, wide open spaces, so you would not want your neighbor to build something right on top of your lot line, so, it all depends on how the property is zoned. Residential, obviously, smaller setbacks, and when you're out in the country, it's larger setbacks. Okay, so, let's look at, again, thank you, Mark. Let's look at this
Thank you.
recommendation form so that Amy can fill that in. So the Plan Commission supports the variance by a vote of 6-1. And the reasons for the town decisions, Hugh, you made the motion.
Five
Oh, I'm
to
sorry.
Derek's not here.
Oh, that's right, Derek's not here.
That's Chicago voting.
All right. Hugh, did you want to state the reasons since you made the motion so that we don't miss
Yes,
anything?
it's,
Public interest.
I think, yes, the reason it's in the public interest that the storage building is set back far, further away from the road versus the rear setback. Improving, the aesthetics for the public. And, the second point, actually made, I think, by Mary Ellen and Mr. Riker, is it's always preferable to have items in storage as opposed to sitting outside,
Out in the open, yeah.
out in the open.
I don't know that I'd use the word aesthetics. Did you have that earlier?
It's aesthetically better to see a building further away from the road setback as you're driving or walking your dog or bicycling than it is to have something closer to the road.
Right.
Yeah,
That's
I just
more-
thought that might be a buzzword that
Hopefully, I think our
that they don't
town
like.
supervisors are pretty sharp. I think they know
Yeah.
All right.
how to, what aesthetics is. They may not know how to spell it, but they know what
AE.
aesthetics is.
And- Okay, and there were no objections
No
from the
objections
neighbor.
from-
From neighbors.
From the back
And
neighbors.
it's not permanent, correct?
The structure.
Visual, an eyesore.
Well,
I
and
think
it
that was
didn't
about it.
seem as if he could turn the building because of the moisture, the wetlandish,
Right.
whether that's technically a wetland, but the water aspect.
So applicant indicates wetland, or, well, not wetland.
No, not wetland, but I mean,
Lowland.
Lowland, right.
Lowland, if you were to turn the building
yeah.
perpendicular to the house.
Because it's, it just, to me, granted the whole, this tract or this plot, this lot, whatever we're gonna call it, by granting a variance is gonna make it from 50 to 35, as Jay said, along the whole line. What it sounds like from your description of that, whether it's technically wetland or no, it's lowland and it's all full of water. So
Yeah.
you people aren't gonna wanna put anything in there.
Plus, you can only have so many accessory buildings on your parcel, so it's not like you're gonna end up with 6 storage buildings back there. You can only have
At
certain.
all
yeah.
35 feet from the line, yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, well, I think we covered that. Proposal consistent with the comprehensive plan. I don't think this is applicable to our comprehensive
Correct.
plan, except inside storage is certainly a
Right.
plus.
And
What,
that's
do you want to
covered.
put anything in there?
NA.
Okay.
Yeah.
And any concerns or objections?
Yeah, I think it's the one that Jay raised, saying, yes, it's country zone, it's countryside zoning, but it's residential property, and, is the 50-foot setback excessive in this case?
Okay.
And so
So-
that's just a question, that I think we all have,
Yeah.
we're empathetic to, and that'd be a question to have the, Door County
Look at
zoning
it.
people.
And it's on a case-by-case basis in the
Right.
sense
Right.
of, we're discussing this one property, but
Right. Not in general.
not in
Yeah.
general with
Correct.
countryside. It could be,
Look at case-by-case basis and
You know
not
what the side
necessarily
setback
in
is.
general, okay.
Yeah, she read that, was it only 25?
I
What
think,
was this,
What
the
was
side setback was only 25 or something, wasn't it?
yeah.
Yeah, why do you have more on a rear than you do on a side? I don't understand that.
And the rear setback, the variance is actually larger than any side setback would be.
Oh, I think the side setback was 40. It was 40, 50, 50, 50.
Okay.
Okay. All right, Amy, you're good to go with that? All right, thank
Yeah,
you.
do we have
Again,
the
Monday
minimum-
evening, town board.
Minimum 35-foot setback?
Hmm?
Do we have in there about, we want a minimum setback of 35 though?
That was the motion, so, yes,
it's on there?
make
All right.
make sure that gets in there somewhere, Amy, in your expert translation of our decision here.
that is definitely why I can't
Yeah,
ever
it
be a
was, A
secretary.
variance to 35 feet or more from rear lot line. Okay,
Alrighty,
thank you. Zipping right along.
Buck's playing an hour.
Yep.
yeah, I know. I think they canceled the outside, party though.
Yeah, I know they weren't gonna let them sit out there until about 6 or 6:30.
Oh, really?
Outside.
There's
They
like
Yeah.
may have
25
canceled it afterwards.
25,000 people. They canceled it altogether
No,
outside?
they were
Outside?
gonna, yeah, some sort of
Oh,
a
that's
railing
good.
party
Screening,
thing
yeah.
or something they called
Your
it.
district?
Deer district, yeah.
Okay. All right, let's look at our short-term rental. So we've got another draft. Oh, Mark, you don't have to stay for this if you don't want to, but you're certainly welcome to listen to
Well,
us
I-
talk about short-term rentals.
I'm kind of interested.
Okay,
Okay.
all right.
He's turning his shed into a short-term rental.
No, thank you.
Just for the public, the most recent draft is always posted on our Town of Sevastopol website. So our most recent draft is always out there for everyone to look at. So, we now have a draft as of July 9th with just a few tweaks. And our revisions are always, depending on what our legal counsel has to say. So I won't go through the whole thing.
Thank God.
Page 2, one of her suggestions, okay, section 6D1 there, that paragraph about effective on or after July 1st of 2022. Okay, I think that was our understanding anyway. On page 3, section 6F,
Look at 6B. 6B, line 104, there was a period there that we changed
Oh.
to a comma.
Where
right,
was this, please?
104.
Line 104. You can
There's
barely
just
see
a
it, but there's
tiny little blue mark
Tiny
that
blue
you
mark,
can
there was
see.
a period that was
Yeah.
changed to a comma.
So it is a comma now?
It is a
Right.
comma.
Pet noise, comma, independent. All right, and then on line 122, section F, she suggested we put in there that contact information must be available during a rental. So if a person is not renting, they would not have to provide contact information.
But why was the or email crossed off?
Oh,
I was
and,
curious about
right, and
the
we
thought
also,
process
to
there.
be consistent, so like frequently asked questions or our application, some said phone, some said email, some said phone or email. So we felt that telephone is the best contact. Not everybody checks
Okay.
their email.
It's the most expeditious.
Yep.
It is to me, but I
Yes.
just,
And since we're working with
Yep.
Granicus, likely,
Yeah.
potentially with a 24/7 hotline.
right. I just
We'll get
wondered if she had
faster
something to
resolution.
say about electronic,
Yeah.
Yeah.
uh,
And telephone, my immediate question was, well, does that include a text? I suppose so, it's by a telephone. But like Hugh said, that would be the most expeditious and I think the most efficient. So during a rental. And then on line 141, I know we've talked about this several times about if there's public water access and how do the guests find that. We took it out completely in the ordinance, and we have a little checkbox on the application so that owners can provide nearby water access in their own house rules, and we wouldn't have to put it into the ordinance. And then again, on the top there, line 146, again, just telephone contact. Line 177, when we get to enforcement and penalties, she suggested not only assessments and costs, but actual attorney's fees when it comes to violations, so that was a good point.
Imagine an attorney wanting to get paid.
Yeah.
And I think that was it
Yeah,
for the
premium
ordinance.
rates.
Hugh, I think that was it. Okay, so that's it for the ordinance, those few minor tweaks. Mark, if you wanted a copy of it, you can certainly have my copy if you like.
I've been listening to it on
Okay. There you go. It does still include the one stay per 6-night period. I know that's been a topic of discussion. That is still in the ordinance, one stay per 6-night period. If you're renting 7 nights or more, you're not subject to that restriction.
and then on, byline 8586, where effective for rentals beginning on or after July 1st of 22, that is solely, not the ordinance, but just the rental aspect.
Correct. The
Meaning
one stay
you
per
can tell
6.
your,
The 6-night, yes, is
yes,
subject to
correct.
that.
that's, and you think, I mean, I happen to think it's clear, but, you know,
Yeah, if it's not clear, we'll make it clear.
okay. But I mean, I
Between,
I
you
just
know,
wonder,
That's a concern, we can make sure we add FAQs to that.
right.
okay.
And
yeah.
we do anticipate, once, well, if and when the ordinance is adopted, to be sending a letter to all of our short-term rental owners that we are aware of per our listing with the ordinance, so that they have a copy of the ordinance, probably including the application and frequently asked questions, and so everybody should be aware of what we're doing. Okay, and then the application, again, that was just a few tweaks to make that consistent with the ordinance. Down in the bottom there, I had referenced license, and I've just changed that to ordinance.
Where's
So,
that?
Down in the bottom paragraph, where I understand that the issuance of this license, or that I've received a copy of the ordinance, and that I must comply with the ordinance, and that may result in license revocation. Okay?
Okay. Now,
Just a couple tweaks. And again, on page 2 of that application, we just, under 2/3 of the way down, all applications, we just kind of took out a box there and included the 4 checkpoints.
now I have a
notify.
question on that. Down at the very last line, the 4th checkbox, very last line, it
Yep.
says, blah, 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 quiet hours 10 to 7, pets leashed and cannot be left unattended. We discussed this back with the pet
Yeah, that was,
situation, and I think
that was
I
pets.
would suggest that we change it to pets leashed and minimum noise,
And minimize noise,
Yep.
that's, yes.
as
that's-
we have in the ordinance.
Yep.
I,
Yeah.
No, that's-
I just think it got
No, that's
missed.
it just got missed.
Yep,
Yep.
good catch.
Good catch.
Okay, so that would be the application.
And on the application, there's, I think, one slight word change, and this goes to the discussion about the identifying your property lines, and this is the note that Linda had added. Shoreline property owners should remind renters and guests about riparian rights, and neighboring property owners, I would change the "and" to "of."
Where are we,
Oh, okay,
please?
we're on 1, 2, 3, 4, the fifth checkbox on page 2.
Okay, a diagram.
Yep, and I
blah,
did
blah.
work up a really nice diagram. I used my property and I put parking spaces and I put, my dimensions of my lot so that they knew that they can go 200 feet that way. I even put a caution on there, mowed areas, or poison ivy is prevalent in mowed area, or unmowed areas, so that will be pretty clear. Hugh just mentioned the last line, so we took out the reference to public water access in the ordinance, and we added this sentence. So shoreline property owners should remind guests about riparian rights, and neighboring property owners. So if you're walking to the beach, in the water is public, the beach is not necessarily public.
Yeah, and that's where I was going to say, change "and" to "of." So it's the riparian rights of neighboring
Yes,
property
yep.
owners.
Oh, of.
Right.
Yeah.
There we go.
And if you object, if you want, we could include a copy of the riparian rights document from the DNR in the mail.
In our mailing?
They publish it. It probably would be a
right.
bad idea, because that's one of the biggest issues.
Yeah, it is.
Okay,
that we
sure.
are
Yeah,
having.
I
Yep.
agree.
Whitefish Bay Association meeting.
Glidden
it's the
Drive,
same
yep.
thing.
Yeah.
I
Okay,
agree.
yep,
And
good
and
idea.
that's,
Good point.
Pamphlet that talks to riparian rights and even has a little,
is there a hot link? Is it available online?
oh, I'm sure it is.
We could
So
add
we
that
could-
to our
Yeah.
frequently asked questions, too.
Because this is just consistent with a lot of the
Right.
letters we receive.
Oh, no, I agree, I'm just saying, as long as we're gonna mail them the packet,
Right.
one more piece of paper, let's throw it in there, because that's the biggest
Right.
issue we hear about.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so we'll make those few changes.
Now, in reading all this, did I understand, or we have the application, we have the ordinance application. You're talking about frequently asked questions.
Right, we are tweaking those as we go along.
All
So
right.
don't worry, you'll all see a complete packet.
What else do we need? I got the idea that, and maybe I'm all wet, but with some of this paperwork that the landlord or the short-term property or whatever, they provide the property rules we do not have to create property rules. Here it is, ta-da.
Correct.
It's the.
They may have more.
Right.
Yes, and it's the property owner or landlord,
Right.
if you will, in this case, but who will be doing that? I know we gave some
Minimum.
things that needed to
Right.
be included. Okay,
Yeah,
just
if you
wanted to be
remember
sure.
this packet that we put together, so in the process, it was the draft application / license, what we were gonna put on the website, frequently asked questions, sample letters, that the owner sends to the neighbor saying, I intend to rent my property, and here's my contact information. And then also, we're working on a cover letter to go to the owners with all of this information so that they're up to date on everything
Now,
that they need to
that
do.
also riparian rights, flyer, letter,
Would-
whatever,
Would go in that.
would go in that.
packet.
Okay.
Yeah, so,
Just wanted to be
Work in
sure I
prog-
wasn't
yep.
missing anything here.
some of it is a work in progress, and,
Picture of each of you with your address and home phone number.
okay, so I think we can look at,
Now, what do we?
we're gonna look at the cost. So Hugh again, thank you. He has reevaluated, and I will let him go through, if you would please look at the cost estimate sheet.
Sure. Yes, and I gave you an updated one that had a typo, and I'll kind of go through that. So there's, we did a estimate back in November of last year, and this is before we had any quotes from Granicus. We just had some rough estimates from their presentation relative to what their modules would cost. And we had discussed the items here on, what it takes to launch a short-term rental ordinance. We had benchmarked Walworth County, and these items, more or less, we basically borrowed from them as they kind of went through their evaluation of short-term rentals. So there's a couple changes that I just want to walk through. One is, this is based on an estimate that the ordinance will be activated November 1st. And that was just, kind of like 90 days from an action taken in a July, August timeframe. So with that, basically the ordinance enforcement, which had, some numbers associated with labor and mileage, I basically prorated those from November to June, which is kind of like the tourism calendar year. So instead of 12 months, it's 8 months. So those numbers go down. The other item that's prorated is the Granicus subscription. So the full Granicus subscription that's shown on the second page is a little over $9,000. So prorating that, again, for 8 months, brings that number down. There are a total of 76 short-term rentals. And when we did the estimates, we had a range between using 60 and I think 66, and I did some, like 3, what if we had those number of STRs. Obviously, the more STRs you have, the more those costs get spread out. So, so that takes a number from roughly, close to $500 down to $287. So that's, basically what the calculation is. Part of the cost from a travel expense perspective is, since it's 2021, on the second page, I used 56 cents a mile, which is the new mileage rate that the IRS has as of 2021. So in the document that you originally got, it shows a hyperlink out that says 2020, and I updated the document that I handed out, and it should say 2021 now. And in the PDF that I sent to the Plan Commission chairwoman and also to the town clerk, it's got that hyperlink also updated to reflect going to the IRS 2021 numbers. Just for some other reference, the $287 number, just if this were a full year, if we were starting a full year instead of prorating it, just to give you a range, with 76 STRs, it'd be roughly $401 annually. So,
It's still a pretty good drop.
yeah, it's still $100 less. So that's just, if we were to start, and it was a full year, it'd be roughly 401 instead of the 287. Again, just kind of going back to the 60 STR estimate we had back in November, just for reference, at 60, it was roughly $486. So that's why you can see it's dropped quite a bit, because it's just more units to spread that around. Ironically, if we also did a swag, if you recall, of, what would the full year cost be in a follow-on renewal, and that's where the gray boxes are off to the right. It's just coincidence, but that annual license renewal rate is $287, almost the same. The totals are obviously different, but, rounded, it's around $287 as well, as a follow-on cost. Again, one big caveat is, this is based on 76 STRs, and if you recall from the Pulse article, I think Nancy Goss, who's the town, one of the town supervisors there and the head of their plan commission, had stated that Granicus identified 174
In Liberty Grove.
in Liberty Grove. But when you look at the Door County Tourism Zone tally of houses, which is houses, cabins, cottages, they tally up 161. So Granicus has seen 14 or 15 more. So based on once, if and when, this gets activated and Granicus goes through the details, we might uncover more than 76. So just, that's the one wild card number here. Okay.
Do you think, I've thought about this, do you think that there may be some short-term rental owners who, excuse me, decide not to participate anymore?
You mean to not stop renting, to
Excuse
stop
me.
renting?
Uh-huh.
You said in Walworth County that happened, that some of the people just stopped
You know, they don't wanna
renting because of
update
all
their
the
septic, or
compliance.
they don't wanna,
There
Yeah.
are some that have declined, and they go through with the Door County Tourism Zone, and the Door County Tourism Zone, are you planning to rent or not rent? And then they say, I'm getting out of this business,
uh-huh,
and they basically, sign a document for the tourism zone, and then they kind of go off the tourism zone book. So there's.
probably some, but not a.
There, I
you
think we probably lost, or they identified, I think, 3 or 4, year over year.
Okay.
That we took off,
I was just
But
curious,
clearly, yeah.
because it could work the other way too,
yes,
yeah.
okay. So that's the updated,
I
cost
suspect the number will be higher, but,
Well, do we want to address what we want for, or what we feel would be a justifiable fee then?
well, we're
And we're
at,
going to have to fill in something, and I'm sure the board is going to want a final number,
well,
or a
this,
proposed number.
this 287 is a prorated though. I mean, it's a time period, November of 21,
Yep.
not a full year.
Right.
Hugh mentioned if it were a full year, it'd be likely be 401 or
yeah,
something?
but that's if we implemented and ran a full calendar year. We're not gonna run a full calendar year. So
Okay.
it shouldn't be to the, 486, because by the time we get to next July, it would be July to that following June, and so we don't have all those startup costs. So this
Okay.
still has, the first one still, for this prorate, it still has the startup costs, the sunk costs of getting things ramped up, getting it noticed, their documentation, et cetera.
Right.
But it's just, you don't have, July, August, September,
Right.
October of all those heavy months where your compliance or other monitoring costs would be in play. They just won't
So
be there.
then, you're thinking then that what do we have, 500 for the initial,
Initially, we had 500,
okay, for the initial application?
right.
Right. So if I had a guess, I would probably just round it up to 300, because we might, find more.
So you think we can lower the initial application fee from 500 to 300? Or
Yes,
am I missing the
because, no,
conversation?
yes,
Okay.
because we can only charge
Okay,
actual costs, right?
Reasonable.
So
Right.
reasonable costs, and so
Okay.
we are not incurring any costs for July of this year.
right, okay.
August of this year, September, October,
Okay.
right? So all those sorts of costs, they're basically out of this equation, right?
Okay.
And the subscription for Granicus is only gonna cover kind of the 8 months.
Okay.
So it's really covering the actual costs associated with us, starting up, and then the implementation through June of next year.
Mhm.
Assuming a November 1 start.
Okay,
I mean, inject here, but we're gonna have this as a separate item, separate from the
oh,
ordinance.
correct,
Yes.
So with Hugh's thought, my thought was exactly the same, which is go with the $300, move it up a little bit. Then take the renewal down in theory to $250, because it's all dependent on enforcement and legal costs. And if it's out of whack, we will know that by next July, in which case we can simply change the renewal if need be. But I think, I would be hopeful that we would be in that thing, so to me, 300, 250 be an easy, realistic number.
okay,
We're not making it any less, it's just that the timeline is less.
Correct.
So
right,
therefore, it works out, so
right.
that doesn't hurt us anywhere.
Would that be the consensus of the plan commission
Mhm.
then? 300 for the initial and 250 for renewal?
I would just say, we'll start with the 300, and then,
Just something that we can
Yeah, 'cause
recommend
I-
to the board.
yeah, and then, And, yeah, and 250, I'm okay with that, I guess.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, the other question I have, not to cut it short, but who have we contracted or contacted with the enforcement piece that you baked in?
Well, the reserve deputies go on hourly basis. It's like the Village of Sister Bay, they contract out, Hugh, correct me if I'm wrong, but they contract out for a whole year. Like we need, for Fall Festival, we need 40 hours, over the span of 2 days or whatever. So it's pretty hard to determine, at least for me, what that cost might be.
No,
I think, this is a fair amount in here.
I'm not questioning that. But
Okay.
have we confirmed that we have a body to go to, that we're gonna pay this money to? That's we've got somebody waiting in the wings that's gonna charge out
No. I'm
That's the
not aware of
piece that-
somebody waiting in the wings. We also talked about using the community office.
there. I think we need to
So-
have identified somebody that we know that is going to be, quote, the enforcer. When we have all this structure built around somebody doing it, I'd like to know who or whom. Whether it's 2 people, 3 people, whatever.
We will do that.
Okay.
And that $17 an hour is,
The
what you're getting
reserves,
now? or,
yeah, I was quite surprised at,
I
Yeah,
mean,
those are some of the numbers we were given.
yeah,
Really?
Yeah.
that, I thought that was pretty
You cut
low.
grass for
but-
us for $15 an hour, or you could be a sheriff for 17.
Well, you can get 15 at McDonald's, can't you?
Plus daycare and tuition assistance.
Okay.
That just seems low to me.
And then also included
one.
was
Like Barney
the Granicus proposal for Sevastopol, and that just backs up what Hugh had in his numbers there. We are waiting for a little bit of feedback on the master subscription agreement with Granicus, and what was the other fee? Master subscription agreement and the contract itself, I guess. So we're waiting for, our attorney had pointed out a couple things, so I'm waiting to hear back on that, and Hugh is waiting to hear back from Granicus, Bruce at Granicus on that, right?
No, I think, have you sent Bruce the questions from our attorney? Because I think that's one that's just,
Oh, I'm waiting to hear. Liberty Grove is also using Granicus, so we're kind of doing a comparison with what they're doing. I'm waiting to hear
yeah,
back.
okay, yeah. And I think
If
Bruce will
they-
act on that once we have that.
Yeah. So, to see if Liberty Grove made any tweaks to their agreement with Granicus, or if it's a boilerplate and we don't have that option. There's just a couple minor things that our attorney had mentioned.
So this is just FYI.
FYI, right, okay. Now, Mr. Chairman, I believe you said you wanted as complete a documents as possible for Monday night?
Well, I think the only thing you're missing is the frequently asked questions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I can work on those. Yep.
And I can live without that if you
Yep.
have to, but
My,
I know you're working on it.
yeah, minor change to the application, clean copy of the ordinance, cover letter to the neighbors, and a cover letter to the owners with all of this information. We'll have that finalized.
I really-
And address your enforcer.
That, to me, is the one component that we need to have
Okay.
clarified, so.
Okay.
But otherwise, I'm good to go.
So again, it's the consensus of the plan commission that we have this ordinance as we would like it and recommend it to the town board, right?
Yes.
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 Correct.
All right, future agenda items, well, Who knows? Next meeting, to be determined.
Yep.
And with that, I don't think there's anything else.
If all
That
of you,
I-
yes, thank you for your time, and I'll let you do your adjournment, but if you haven't subscribed to our YouTube channel, please do.
Oh, right.
And we'll mention that because we want to get a permanent name for our YouTube channel. And the only way you can do that is we get 100 subscribers. Doesn't mean you have to tune in night and day, we just need you to subscribe. It's pretty easy.
How do we do that?
Have you got the link on the website?
I have it on the website.
Oh, okay.
Send
I'll
out
do that.
emails to our existing agenda
Okay, good.
recipients. So that should be in your inbox, you just have to click on it.
If you're not a Google user, you have to set up a password. If you are a Google user, that takes care of itself, and that's all you have to do. So, thank you.
All right, if there's no further business.
I move we adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, thank you once again.